Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from across the globe. This is Dr. Osman Aldirdiri. I'm on the executive committee of SPARC Africa, and I'm going to be the host of this webinar. So, on behalf of SPARC Africa, the African affiliate of the Scholarly Publishing and Academic Resources Coalition, SPARC Africa, I would like to welcome you in collaboration with the African Library and Information Association's institutions, AfLIA, and the Association of African Universities, the AAU. I would like to warmly welcome you to the special two-day webinar series to mark the International Open Access Week 2025. This year's global theme, Who Owns Our Knowledge, invites us to ask deep, sometimes uncomfortable questions about equity, ownership, and justice, and how knowledge is created, shared, and used. And we're here to explore one of the most exciting pathways towards a fairer knowledge ecosystem, DIAPON Open Access, a model that truly treats knowledge as a public good. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our organizers, our distinguished speakers, and of course you, the librarians, researchers, educators, students, and publishers who join us. Your presence reflects a shared belief that knowledge should serve everyone, not just those who can afford to access it. Let's take a minute to reflect on the question at the heart of this week's Who Owns Our Knowledge? For centuries, the production and distribution of scholarly publishing and scholarly knowledge have been shaped by systems of power. Who funds the research, who publishes it, and who has the privilege to read it? Today, while digital technologies have expanded access like never before, there were also some sort of inequities, in our ecosystems. Many researchers and institutes in the global south still face barriers, from high article processing charges to limited visibility in global research databases. And yet, knowledge itself, the idea, the discoveries, and the insights born of human curiosities does not belong to anyone, any company, or any country. Knowledge is a public good. It gains value when shared, multiplied, and built upon. That's where Diamond Open Access comes. Unlike traditional or even commercial open access models, Diamond Open Access removes both paywalls for readers and publication fees for authors. It's supported by community, librarians, universities, governments, and consortia, ensuring that neither wealth nor geography determines who gets to contribute or benefit from scholarly communication. So last year, this moment gained significant momentum through the 2024 Cape Town Global Diamond Open Access Summit, which followed the summit in Toluca 2 years before. The summit was hosted in South Africa. The summit brought together over 200 participants from across the world, including scholars, librarians, policymakers, funders, and publishers, to advance the vision of a fair, sustainable scholarly communication ecosystem. Building on the foundation laid at the 2023 Toluca Global Summit in Mexico, which was a year before, the Cape Town gathering highlighted Africa's leadership in sharing the Diamond Open Access ecosystem. It focused on practical pathways for collaboration between regions, sustainable funding models, and policies that ensure open access serves all communities equitably. The summit also emphasized the importance of recognizing and valuing diverse forms of knowledge, language, and published traditions. And that's why we had different presentations from different speakers with multiple languages. At the close of the Cape Town Summit, participants adopted a powerful declaration affirming that scholarly knowledge is a public good. The declaration calls for access to knowledge that is free of prejudice, bias, barriers, and paywalls, ensuring inclusion of both readers and authors alike. It further emphasized that Diamond Open Access is driven by social justice, equity, and inclusivity, and commits to advancing it as a means of enabling equitable, sustainable, and decolonized systems of knowledge and knowledge creation and sharing. The declaration respects regional diversity, of course, recognizing that implementing Diamond Open Access must be tailored to address local and global challenges. And that's why we're now having perspectives from speakers from different regions. For Africa and the Global South, Diamond Open Access is not just a publishing model. It acts as a self-determination. It allows African scholars to retain ownership of their research output, publishing in locally governed patterns, local languages, and publishing local knowledge. By supporting open access By supporting Diamond Open Access, we're also nurturing local journals and repositories, open infrastructures, and regional networks that amplify African scholarship on the global stage. This is how we reclaim our narrative and ensure that Africa and other regions not only merely a consumer of knowledge, but a producer and a steward of it as well. When we ask who owns our knowledge, it becomes a call to action to build systems that reflect fairness, transparency, and collective responsibility. Because when knowledge is free and open, innovation thrives, education deepens, and societies progress towards. Once again, welcome to this International Open Access Week's celebration with SPARC Africa, AfLIA, AAU, and our esteemed speakers. Thank you for being parts of this growing movement for equitable knowledge. Let's dive in, reflect deeply, and together, let's reimagine a world where knowledge truly belongs to all. And from here, I'd like to hear from our amazing speakers, and we would like to start with, so our first speaker is going to be Dr. Graham. Dr. Graham Sloan is the head of international projects at OAPEN. He has over 30 years experience in the scholarly communication sector. He's a chartered librarian and holds a doctorate in open access publishing. He has worked on several UK and European projects on Diamond Open Access Publishing and open access books, open access book policies, and is a committee member of AfLIA Library Publishing Special Interest Group and a member of the Irish Open Access Publishers Advisory Board. Thank you very much, Graham, for joining us.
So thank you very much for the introduction. It's my job for the next 10 or 15 minutes to give you an update about what's been happening in Europe. But I want to start by thanking everybody for asking me to be on this webinar. It's a real honor to do this, so I very much appreciate it. So as the introduction said, I work at the OAPEN Foundation, which is a Dutch not-for-profit organization in Europe. We look after open access books, but I'm going to touch on all Diamond open access in Europe for this presentation. We're also involved, or I'm involved in the OPERA's research infrastructure for open scholarly communication. And OPERA's within Europe is the real driving force for building infrastructure and providing resources for publishers and institutions who want to go down that route. And I should say it's institutional publishing that we're talking about here, or anything that's supporting that. What I'm going to concentrate on to start with, and I've got a lot of slides and I'm very happy to share them afterwards because there's lots of links within the slides. I want to talk about the European Diamond Capacity Hub that came out of a couple of projects. To put it in perspective, and we've just touched on importance of regional requirements. The hub itself is part of the regional part of the global Diamond OA landscape. I'm also going to very briefly talk about some of the national and regional capacity centres which are also appearing within Europe. It's really important for us. I'm an Englishman who only speaks English, although I live in Germany, but there are so many languages within Europe, especially within humanities and the social sciences. The importance of bibliodiversity is key. In the books area, which I work in, but also journals, there's an increasing requirement to publish in English. We want to protect the regional languages as far as we can. So we really want to support equity, diversity, inclusion, bibliodiversity as well. A bit of background as to where we've come from. Back in 2021, there was an open access Diamond Journals study, and that came up with the recommendation to create a capacity centre, as we called it at the time. We soon learned our lesson. We're not the centre, we're a hub. But that was the conclusion of that study. We then came up with an action plan, and then we were very fortunate to get European funding for the DMAS project, which ended in August this year, and the Craft OA project, its sister project, which is more of a technical project, which ends in December. But they've 2 weeks ago had their final conference. for that project as well. So this is the background. What happened basically is back in January in Madrid, we launched the European Diamond Capacity Hub. So that was really the culmination of a lot of the work from the DMAS project, which I was in a previous role very fortunate to work on for quite a lot of the project. And it's brought from the work of DMAS and Craft OA with the idea of coordination of the open access ecosystem for Diamond OA within Europe. I'll say within Europe a lot because I'm giving the European regional context. Everything within the capacity center, and I'll go into a little more detail in a second, everything is open, everything is CC BY, everything is reusable. We encourage the different regions within Europe and the different countries within Europe to reuse anything that can be then reused in other parts of the world is fantastic. It's whatever you need it to be. So basically, there's three parts of the EDCH. There's the coordination part, there's the tools and services, which is something I worked on in particular, and then there's the sustainability aspect. And just to reiterate, this is all about the community. This is about, as we started calling it institutional publishers and service providers, we soon realized that that was an awful acronym and we don't use it anymore. But it's for the community. So the resources are there for the community. Many have been written by the community as well and actually translated by the community. So what have we got within the EDCH? We've got a standard, we've got a discovery hub for journals, which has just been launched. We have publishing tools, training platform, resources guidelines, and a registry and forum. And I'll just very quickly go through those. The biggest part of the initial phase of DMAS was to come up with a Diamond Open Access standard. There was a huge amount of consultation on this. We boiled it down into 7 components, and this is for, this is for journal publishing at the moment, so journal publishers, and it's really a way to benchmark what they do against the criteria of the Diamond Open Access standard. So that was launched over a year ago now. With it is a self-assessment tool where we encourage institutional publishers to go in. There's no accreditation at the moment. It's all confidential. We don't see any of the information, but they can go in, they can register, they can go through DOAS, and they can see at the end how close they are to achieving success in that particular area. It's not a competition, it's not a badge, but it's really a way for institutional publishers to learn what they're already good at, what maybe they need to do a little bit of improvement on, and how to work along with that. To help them do it, we've got resources and guidelines, and that takes you through step by step of everything you need to know. And we've also got a training platform on Moodle, where we've got more interactive things where institutional publishers or interested parties can sit down and really sort of understand some of the aspects of that as well. We're also running a registry. This registry is for institutional publishers and service providers to come in, to join a community. They have to show us that they are Diamond. You can't just turn up. You've got to say, what you actually do to be approved. You can then create a profile, and we've got various communities and discussions going on within those communities. It's a place for the community to talk to each other and to find out in certain aspects. And that's the forum as well, which I just mentioned. Diamond Discovery Hub as well is a list of Diamond OA journals that meet the criteria. So that's just been launched. And we've also got a variety of publishing tools around OJS, which has come out of the Craft OA project. I'm whipping through these though, because I could spend half an hour on each one. This is then back to the community. So each of those criteria within DOAS, we have community task forces where we invite people to sign up and discuss, and this is how we'll keep it fresh. This is how we'll look for areas we need to improve, look at new areas, and how we go. So again, this is the community now coming back in after the project to help us develop and go forward. I mentioned Diamond National Capacity Centres as well, and they are springing up. It's like wildfire, I think is probably the phrase. So we've got capacity centres, as you can see there. Well, you can see if you know the country codes. We've got capacity centres in Spain, Germany, Finland, France, Greece, the Netherlands, Norway, and Nordic, Portugal, Sweden, and I'm trying to remember what RS stands for, and I knew there's one, so that's the one I'm going to have to forget for now. But also others in the making as well. Now, some of these have funding at a national level, and others have absolutely no funding, and they're a network coming together and really building their own capacity centres. But they will do that in their own language, and they will hopefully take things from the EDCH, repurpose it, and then send it out to their community. I wanted to very quickly touch on what's next for the EDCH. One of the things that I haven't got this side is we hope more languages, and we need the community to help us with more languages for the resources, the guidelines, and the standard. But one thing we would really like to do, and this is subject to further funding, is to integrate the EDCH with OA book publishing, because it wasn't possible within the first project, but we would really like to do this. We would, and I've got again 3 things. We would really like to get OA book publishing into, so this isn't a version, but it will be hopefully integrated within DOAS. We would like to go through design consultation period and then integrate the criteria into DOAS for book publishers. Some criteria will be similar, some criteria completely different to journal publishing. So there's a lot of work to do. If and when we can do that, we also need to provide the tools and services. So we would hope to expand what we already have in the EDCH and expand that to book publishing. And we also need to expand the sustainability section. What we don't want to do is probably another report on why or what are the reasons or challenges for sustainability, because we know the answers. We've done a lot of these. We know what the answers are: time, money, expertise. What we want to do is work with the stakeholders at the European level, so libraries up to policymakers, and we want to try and make live the recommendations for the Palmyra project, which was another project that it was around policy making. Everything that is aspects we would like to bring into this and make those recommendations live. Then I just wanted to mention very quickly one other thing that's happening within, and I think I've just got enough time, is the Open Book Collective, which has come out of project funding in the UK. And this is looking again at open books. It's looking at Diamond open books started out with the UK, US, and is now expanding to other countries. There's a very quick slide. That's what we've got within it. I would bring your attention to African Minds, which is part of the Open Book Collective, and they are looking for more publishers to come on board. And again, just to reiterate, it's non-profit, community governed, membership criteria is checked, and hopefully it is sustainable as well. And they also have grants, and again, just to mention that one of their grants was issued, which found Zimbabwe's first OA University Press, which was a fantastic grant to be able to give from that particular project. And then just to bring it all together, just to finish, I also wanted to mention the AlMasi project. And the AlMasi project is a project that brings together Latin America, Africa, and Europe to look at how we can work together and repurpose and look at things. And my colleague Mary Felix, who some of you may know, is on that project for OAPEN. And I know she's got some presentations coming up as well around this too. So hopefully we will bring this all together in the spirit of working globally, and that's what the AlMasi project is there for. And I think I've just about kept time, so I think that's me. So thank you very much, and happy to hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Graham. That was very interesting. I remember the first time hearing about all of these initiatives, I had like tons of questions. And like I gave your colleagues, a hard time asking about many things. So I'm sure our attendees here will have much of questions to ask you later on. So we will handle questions at the end of this of all the four speakers, and then we will have questions. And we'll now continue hearing from our leaders and practitioners who are pioneering open, equitable approaches to scholarly communications. They will share examples of successful Diamond Open Access initiatives, discuss funding and policy frameworks, and explore how we can strengthen ecosystems that sustain them. As we listen, I encourage you to think about how these ideas connect to your own work in your institutions, your classrooms, your communities. What would it look like if every piece of research funded by policy or public money was freely available to the public? Every student, regardless of means, could learn from the latest sciences without barriers. And that was, I got that inspiration now where Graham was speaking about, open book and open book publishing. Our next speaker is a very interesting person in person and also online. So our next speaker is Moumita Koley, who is a leading voice in science policy and meta-science in India. She holds a PhD in organic chemistry from Vienna University of Technology, Austria, where her research focuses on synthesizing small molecules to direct the differentiation of polypotent stem cells towards heart muscle science. So Moumita and I had the privilege of meeting in person during the last summit in Cape Town. So I would let Moumita speak more about herself, and then afterwards, we will hear her presentation. Moumita she authored many research papers and newspapers articles of these topics. Moumita serves on the steering committee of DORA, representing Asia, on the IAU Open Science Expert Group. She's an editor of the Open Knowledge section of Caterina Leadership Elevated, and is part of the 2025 Open Access Week Advisory Committee. We're glad to have you, Moumita.
Thanks, Osman. And I will share my screen, and I have to probably also apologize because today is a festival day in India, and it's one of the biggest festivals of the country. So you'll hear a lot of cracker noise, and I hope that does not make a lot of disturbance. To start with, I think we are definitely here to talk about the progress of Diamond Open Access, specifically in the Asian context, but I would also focus a little bit more about India, that certain policy decisions that has been done in the country, which I think needs a lot of scrutiny, and other countries can learn from those initiatives, what to do, what not to do, based on their open knowledge agenda. So a little bit overview of the Diamond Open Access situation in Asia. So in the left-hand side, as you see this graph, that it's a data taken from the director of Open Access Journal, and it's published in one of the scientific papers, and you will see that the Diamond in the open access scenario, in the Diamond Open Access, of course, there are quite a few Diamond journals that comes from Asia, but of course, Latin America leads here. However, if you see the percentage share in the Diamond Open Access, in the DOAJ, it's Latin America is lower than Europe. It's possibly because of not that all the Diamond Open Access journals that comes from a certain region, be Latin America or Asia, are indexed. So indexing it is definitely a bigger challenge. And in the right hand side, you will see that I had taken the data that currently how many journals, Diamond Open Access, are published from the top Asian, in the Asian countries, the top 5, of course, Indonesia leads it, and then India and China also are there in publishing quite a few Diamond Open Access journals. And yes, these are all indexed in DOAJ. Now, look into the Indonesia case, because I think it's also an interesting thing, case to understand and study. So definitely Indonesia was always known to have a lot of Diamond Open Access journals. So they would produce the knowledge and publish in the local journal, which is supported by the university or other government resources. And in this Nature article actually talks about, it was in 2019, and that point of time, Indonesia was probably the top country in the world in producing Diamond Open Access journal. Now, just like a couple of days ago, I looked into the OAJ and I see that now Brazil leads in producing Diamond Open Access journals, and Indonesia is in the second place. And there are a lot of research integrity issues are coming from the Indonesian and universities. And this is also a very similar case that we see in India as well. And these are all coming because of the pressure to be in this international ranking. For example, Times Higher Education or QS ranking. And that makes a situation quite bad for this journal, because then their legitimacy is started to decline, because for various reasons, maybe they get a lot of, because there is this ranking pressure, there needs to show more paper, then maybe there are many journals grows up which are not really a good journals anymore. They are on the borderline of predatory journals. Now coming to China. China, of course, is definitely a very interesting country to look into, because they are the global leader in knowledge producing. Right now, China leads globally, is in the top position in producing papers. However, Chinese papers are not, it's their open access, number of open access papers is quite not that much, and that's why they're investing huge in the article processing charge. So right now they are the top in the in giving article processing charge to the commercial journals to make their journal open access. However, we don't really see much yet, not much initiative to go towards the diamond or local journals. There are discussions that they're focusing on local journals, but still we have not seen any real outcome of those talks. Now let's come to Diamond Open Access in India. India is, of course, another important country in the global scale in the knowledge production. We are globally positions third right now. You're in the yearly publishing papers. And if I look into the DOSJ website, then there are this many journals which does not, this many open access journals which does not charge fee. And among them, if I put it publishers location, 260 will be in India. And you will see this particular publishers, Walter Kluwer's or Medno, have 150 journals. So they are definitely one of the top producers, top publishers for producing Diamond Open Access journals, which are indexed in DOAJ. Now, why I mentioned it, this is an interesting story, because this Medno publication, which was started by one of a doctor in India in 1997, because he felt the need that Indian research in the medical field needs its own publishing, because the research that has been done, of course, is very India-specific research, suitable for Indian population, and that might not have a very good reception in the international journal, and that's why it was important to have Indian medical journal. And because of his vision, this Medno publication came up, and which was running in a diamond model and was quite successful. But like what happens when something becomes successful in a non-profit mode, it's for profit publishers activates it. And in 2011, it was acquired by Walter Kluwer's, and the situation was not improved, because, for example, Walter Kluwer's, using the Medno's name and fame, expanded a lot. Now they have 350 medical society journal, and I showed that among them only 150 are been indexed in DOH, which are diamond. The rest, various other funding model, even gold and all exists. and their quality is also in decline. So one of the Journal of Medno, after Water Clues acquired it, there are quite a bit of flag of predatory practices in those journals. So shows that how a very good Diamond Open Access journal publications from India went a little bit downhill. Of course, there can be debate and discussion on this. So currently in the country, there is not too many. There are Diamond Open Access Journal, but and run by the academies, Indian scientific academies, and CSIR, another institution, government institution, who runs quite a few Diamond Open Access Journal. But unfortunately, their reputations are not very high. They are not very popular yet. Um, after Now I would like to talk about something which is not exactly related to the diamond, but I think it's a very interesting example of maybe what not to do if you are looking for knowledge sovereignty. So India has done this one nation one subscription deal with 30 publishers in the global academic in the public. It's for the public academic institutions, so all the journals for this, not exactly all, but many journals of these publishers will be available to read by the researchers in the public academic institution. But we paid a lot of money, so $241 million, which is very high, which is really almost uh, double of the amount that was actually calculated that would need to have this deal. But as I mentioned, that while it looks very nice that now we have access to knowledge for all the public institutions, but what about the private institutions? There are many private institutions in India. They are still not under this ONOS deal, so they still have to negotiate with the publishers, and many of the other small institutions, it's very difficult to get the access. And now in India, Sci-Hub access is blocked. So there is a situation where probably people are not being able to access through ONOS because there are not enough IT infrastructure in small colleges, whereas private institution would have problem. So we have a double problem that Sci-Hub is blocked, whereas ONOS access is limited. It is, of course, very good for institutions with good IT infrastructure, for public institution. Private institution and institutions with not so good IT infrastructure, it's a nightmare. And why I said that you can learn a lot from this deal is that why did we made a subscription deal? When if you look into this graph, the open access content is on the rise, and while the non-open access is in decline. So many of articles are now available in various open access mode. So subscription, are we really paying double? And whereas in India's situation, if you look into this, that in India, the paper that we published, it is only about less than 40% is open access. Still, our own publications are under closed access, and ON is not going to help there. In the right hand, you can see the various different kind of open access mode. So the thing is that in Indian, what we publish now, we had heard in globally, but a lot of our own publications, as like more than 60%, is still under paywall, under blockage. So people outside India would not be able to read those. So we definitely need a way out, and green open access could be the way out for us, and not just us. I think it's for having the knowledge sovereignty for any researchers, for any country. What they produce, they should start from preprint, and definitely one person should go to institutional repository, even if it available through publishers website. Yes, embargo would be a problem, but that's why we really need to think about how to circumvent all of this. And so preprinting, and another important aspect I would like to highlight is right retention, because as I say that in India 60% of the papers still goes into subscription or hybrid journal, and most of it, almost all of this journal ask you to hand the copyright of your papers to them. So our knowledge is then owned by the publishers. And what's the consequence of it? The consequence is that the publishers are then licensing this content and selling it to the AI companies for training, whereas it should be our own knowledge. So it is now very important. That's why I wanted to say that, of course, we really need to support the Diamond Open Access Journal. We have to explore the alternatives like peer review preprint. And let me reiterate it, because from our Indian experience, we learn that you can pay the publishers as much as you want, but still, you for access for any other purpose, but still you would always be in this position where you won't be owning your own knowledge. So think before you transfer the copyright to publishers. Try to find out a way to retain. And finally, I would like to, I want to be on time, so probably I rushed a bit, but we can discuss it, more of this in the question answer session. But let me finish with this, that now, after Cape Town, the third global Diamond Open Access will be happening in India, in Bangalore, and I invite all the people to join us in India in February. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moumita. I'm already packing my bags now to India. And thank you very much for bringing that, global, not only like one country's perspective, but a regional perspective of what is happening. And I also like the fact where you spoke about selling the papers for AI, and I'm expecting questions around that as well. So our next speaker is Sharla. So Sharla Lair is a lead strategist for open scholarship at Lyrasis, where she oversees initiatives to support sustainable, community-driven funding models for open journals, books, and infrastructures. She leads Lyrasis Open Access Community Investment Program, as well as she promotes the long-term sustainability for Diamond Open Access journals, and contributes to several advisory boards within the global open access community. One thing also worth mentioning about Sharla is that she just had a cup of coffee, so we are expecting a lot from Sharla. Thank you for joining us, Sharla.
Thank you, Osman, and thank you, Moumita and Graham. It's hard to follow after you, and I'm truly honored to be here today to share some reflections on Diamond Open Access in the United States. It's really a privilege to stand alongside colleagues representing regions around the world that are working tirelessly to advance open, equitable, and community-centered scholarly communication. Unlike our Canadian neighbors to the north, the United States is in a very different place on the Diamond Open Access journey, and I don't really have much to report that is worthy of slides. So I would like to instead simply share our story in hope of fostering understanding, sparking meaningful conversation, and above all, building connection. I do not claim to know everything that is happening in this space in the United States, but I hope my perspective learned from engaging on the ground with libraries, editorial boards, and university-based publishers can contribute to our shared understanding of where the U.S. is on this journey and where we might be headed. The Toluca Cape Town Declaration calls us to face a fundamental truth. Knowledge is not equally valued or equally accessible. Commercial power, concentrated wealth, and geopolitical realities continue to dictate who can publish, who can read, and whose voices are heard. These inequities shape access and opportunity everywhere, including in the United States. Diamond Open Access has long existed in the US, but mostly at the margins, in small scholar-led journals and library publishing programs and editorial boards that choose mission over profit. It has never been absent. It has simply lived outside the spotlight, quietly shaping an alternative path for knowledge exchange. And perhaps it is exactly this marginal position that has given Diamond its strength, because it was never fully dependent on institutional power or commercial systems. It learned how to survive in the gaps, how to grow quietly, how to adapt, and how to endure, largely due to the fragmented nature of the United States higher education ecosystem. Higher education in the US is profoundly decentralized. Funding flows from federal, state, private, and tuition sources, but it is unevenly distributed. Some universities have vast endowments and robust research infrastructure, while many others struggle to meet basic operational needs. The disparities extend across disciplines as well. STEM fields often receive far more funding than the humanities and social sciences, shaping what knowledge gets produced and shared. This fragmented landscape makes coordination at a national level very difficult. Funding and resources are distributed unevenly, and there is no consistent alignment of principles or priorities across or even within the 50 US states. As a result, institutions are left to design their own approaches to scholarly communication, creating their own culture of collective action in isolation. This is why, unlike countries with centralized library consortia or national coordinating bodies, the United States operates through more than 120 independent library consortia. This level of decentralization means there is no single coordinating entity, no national mandate, and no shared infrastructure capable of sustaining open access, let alone diamond open access. In that vacuum, commercial platforms have become the de facto national infrastructure, setting the terms of participation in the scholarly ecosystem and defining what is visible, valued, and viable. And yet, perhaps because of this fragmentation, communities working locally and creatively have carved out remarkable spaces for diamond publishing. In a system where no one is truly in charge, people innovate. As Dr. Martin Paul Eve once wrote about Diamond Open Access, people see a need, they get off their backsides and put it into action. A new journal is born. These acts of independence are exactly what we see across the United States. A humanities department sponsors a niche journal. A library publisher collaborates with faculty to launch a disciplinary monograph series. An editorial board resigns from a profit-driven publisher and creates a diamond journal of its own. In these moments, fragmentation is not a bug. It becomes a feature, a source of creative possibility. This is how diamond has persisted in the United States: decentralized, community-rooted, and adaptable. And that adaptability may be precisely what allows it to find its place in the uncertain times ahead. To understand the scope of this work, we can turn to some data, even if it tells only part of the story. According to the Directory of Open Access Journals, roughly 600 diamond journals are published in the United States. The real number is likely 2 or 3 times higher. Many remain uncounted and invisible outside the communities that sustain them. Behind these journals are library publishers who have nurtured diamond publishing for more than 2 decades, academic departments that keep journals alive through local support, societies and university presses supporting diamond journals and books alongside their traditional portfolio, and scholar-led initiatives operating outside formal systems to fill disciplinary gaps and amplify underrepresented voices. Together, they all form a patchwork that may be mostly invisible and disconnected, but it is alive, and it has been quietly holding the line for decades. Today, this work is taking place against a shifting and turbulent backdrop. The United States is living through deep social, political, and cultural disruption, and higher education is feeling that turbulence acutely. Public trust in universities is eroding. Ideological interference is threatening academic freedom. Financial austerity and enrollment declines are reshaping campuses. The very idea of the university as a space for free inquiry, civic engagement, and the pursuit of truth is even being questioned. Many are asking whether higher education still knows what it is for. This disruption is scary and dangerous, but is also revealing. It exposes how fragile our scholarly systems have become, how dependent they are on unstable funding, on commercial platforms, and on prestige hierarchies that often serve institutional reputation more than public good. And yet, in this disruption, there is also an opening. Diamond Open Access has always thrived at the margins. It knows how to operate without institutional guarantees. It is not bound by the same dependencies that are now being tested. If this erosion of systems continues, Diamond, I don't think it'll disappear. It will adapt because it was never dependent on those institutions in the first place. That is its power. Its capacity to survive in uncertainty makes it one of the most resilient forms of scholarly communication that we have. But resilience alone is not enough. It's not enough to let Diamond remain a quiet alternative that survives only on the edges. Its endurance and its values of equity, transparency, community are exactly why we must build greater capacity for it in the United States. We cannot simply let it emerge. We must sustain it intentionally. And we are beginning to see momentum for this. Consortial communities are starting to ask how they can coordinate efforts to support Diamond publishing. New collaborations are emerging across libraries and university presses to support Diamond publishing of journals and books. The Lyrasis Open Access Community Investment Program continues to expand financial support of individual Diamond journals. Editorial boards are leaving commercial environments to start again as Diamond journals, reclaiming ownership of their labor and values. And most significantly, a joint initiative will soon be underway to conduct an environmental scan of the U.S. Diamond ecosystem, mapping capacity, identifying gaps, and highlighting opportunities for collaboration. These actions do not yet form a national strategy, if there ever will be one, but they signal something important, a cultural shift. The patchwork is beginning to connect. The once marginal conversations are becoming central. What was hidden is starting to come into view. The challenges do remain very real. The dominant publishing system rooted in prestige hierarchies, impact metrics, and commercial control still defines legitimacy in the United States. But legitimacy can be redefined. The question is not whether Diamond belongs in the United States. It does, and it always has. The question is whether we will recognize it, strengthen it, and make space for it to lead. If we do, Diamond Open Access can become more than a refuge for idealists. It can become a foundation for renewal, a living example of how scholarship can thrive outside the structures that are now struggling to sustain themselves. By removing paywalls, decentering profit, and enabling community-led publishing, Diamond becomes both a publishing practice and a philosophical reorientation from scholarship as commodity to scholarship as a shared civic and cultural good. This is where I find hope. The turbulence in higher education, the erosion of trust, and the questioning of authority, all of these create space for reimagining how knowledge is produced, shared, and valued. Diamond Open Access offers a practical and moral pathway forward. As universities face financial strain, Diamond Publishing offers a sustainable model rooted in public service. As faculty grow weary of metrics and rankings, Diamond Publishing offers community accountability. And as public trust declines, Diamond Publishing, bolstered by open science practices, offers a bridge between scholarship and society. Those of us working to advance this vision in the United States are profoundly grateful for the global Diamond community. Your dedication to open, equitable, community-led scholarship serves as both North Star and compass, guiding us through uncertainty, offering models for connection, and reminding us of what is possible. Your creativity, persistence, and generosity show us that knowledge as a public good is not only achievable, but essential. In a landscape where commercial platforms and political forces often shape legitimacy and limit imagination, your work demonstrates that the margins are not the periphery. They are where innovation begins. And in moments when the path feels unclear at home, your example gives us not only practical models to learn from, but the moral courage to continue. In the United States, the story of Diamond Open Access is still being written. It's a story shaped at the margins, a story of people building in the gaps, of resilience forged through constraint, of creativity thriving without permission. And from small scholar-led journals to emerging consortial networks, a grassroots movement is taking form. But the future of scholarly publishing will not be handed to us. We make scholarly publishing, not the other way around. That is why recognizing, connecting, and investing in these pockets of strength matters. And it is why global collaboration, approached with humility and courage, is essential if we in the United States are to build an ecosystem that is visible, resilient, and firmly rooted in the belief that knowledge is a human right. Peter Drucker reminds us the best way to predict the future is to create it. I believe that Diamond Open Access is how we create the future we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharla. That was really, really inspiring. I would like only to remind our attendees that you can post your questions at the Q&A section here. You can start posting your questions now. So our next speaker is Dr. Felicia. She's the coordinator of the ICT Communication and Knowledge Management of the Association of African Universities, AAU, which is a continental body with over 450 member universities. She holds a PhD in ICT education with specialization in cybersecurity from the prestigious World Bank-sponsored Africa Center for Excellence for Innovation and Transformation STEM Education at the Lagos State University in Nigeria. She's also the project officer for a Science Grantings Council initiative project funded by the International Development Research Council Canada, Research Center Canada, which involves 17 countries across Eastern, Western, and Southern Africa. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Felicia. She just arrived from an across the globe flight, and thank you very much for making the time to join. So we'll move to our next speaker, and then once Dr. Felicia's technical issue resolved, we'll be back to Dr. Felicia. So Dr. Bianca will be joining us from Latin America. And I must mention, she's a wonderful person to party with. You know, that's off the weapon. That's gonna be good.
Thank you.
Bianca.
Thank you. So kind. It's glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's very honored to me to be part of this webinar today and to talk a little bit about the situation of the diamond ecosystem in Latin America. Well, we have historical dominance and global leadership in OA diamonds. The Diamond Open Access model, no commercial, as we know, platinum, as somebody say that is the Diamond Open Access, is predominant in traditional form of scientific communication in Latin America. Latin America has achieved the highest percentage of its scientific publication in open access globally. And I must say that the number of journals that we have today in the OH, they are under the real number of the journals open diamond that we have. We have some kind of problem with the indexation in the OH. Well, this ecosystem is led by the academic and scientific community and sustained by public funds. The academic sector is the main publisher in the region, in all the countries that we have in Latin America, with university representing 70 of publishing institutions, public institutions. Globally, the region concentrates 40% of the documents published in Diamond Open Access, managed by the academic university sectors. Regional infrastructures, platforms like Redalyc Index, 1,500 scientific journals, and Latindex, another indexer that we have, registers 14 operating under the diamond model. Institutional example, we have a fantastic example. I must talk about the National University of Costa Rica, that 97 out of 99 scientific journals from public university are published in the Diamond No Commission Open Access category. It's a very interesting case to study all the regulations, all the rules that this university has. Adoption of Diamond Open Access in Latin America. We have the academic management. The ecosystem is led by academic university sector managed by the same community and financed with public funds, promoting collaborative formats, and very important to say, multilingualism. We respect the multilingualism in our journals. Low APC rates. A regional survey of 1,000 journals in Ibero-America found that only 4.2% charge an APC, confirming the Diamond route as the majority model in the region. The commercial challenge, talking about APC, the number of Latin American journals charging APC almost doubled in 2 years, increasing from 123 in 2021 to 249 in 2023. This increase is concerning because it undermines Diamond journals in the regions. The Diamond model seeks to operate in resistance to this commercialization. But which are the probable causes of APC charges? Most journals charge mid-range price between 500s and low price between $100. The lower average charge suggests that fees are often used to cover processing, cover processing, review, or digital tools acquisition costs, rather than oligopolistic profits. It's clear, it's very clear to us that journal publishers are not aiming for profits, but rather than the sustainability of the journals. The problem of the multilingualism. Accepting articles in English is the most common option for journals that charge APCs. These behaviors may be linked to the obligation established by evaluation systems in each country that require publication in English, which force journals to bear translations costs. Public publishers. It is unfortunate that most journals with APCs belongs to universities, to the public universities, including well-established public institutions, such those in Brazil, in Mexico, and Argentina. The defense of the Diamond model and the strengths. The consolidation of the Diamond model is sustained by alliances and policies that promote it as a public good. Support from regional infrastructures. Initiatives like REDLIC have the clear objective of strengthening Diamond OA, providing cutting-edge technologies at no cost to the journals, allowing them to remain free for both authors and readers. REDLIC, along with AmELICA, aims for a sustainable and community-driven structure for open knowledge. No commercialization policy. The Declaration of Mexico in 2017, signed by regional leaders like Latindex, REDLIC, Claxo, and IBICT, promoted the use of the CC by NCSA license, attribution, no commercial, share alike, to protect regional scientific production from commercial use. This license strategy is consistent with the view of the knowledge as a common good. International recognition. The DIA model, as the other panelists said, in Latin America is recognized as a route to sustainability and inclusion, serving as a counterweight to the global commercial modes. Institutions like the National University of Costa Rica view the diamond model as central to open science and student inclusion, formalizing it through regulations and procedure manuals to ensure its institutional protection and stability to resist arbitrary decisions. Stable resource allocation. Recognizing scholarly communication as a public good must be accompanied by concrete actions that ensure adequate and stable resource to maintain quality editorial management, mainly by the institution that allowed the creation of the journal, because it's very interesting, because public institutions from Brazil, like the major university that we have, the University of São Paulo, allow the creation of the journals, but they not put the funds necessary to sustain the journals. And so because of it, we had the increase of the EPC models in our journals. The possibility of directing funds that would otherwise be spent on APC for high journals to strengthen national journals is suggested. It's really suggested instead to use this resource to APC, why not use the resource to sustain the journals that we have in our countries? Well, I think that this idea, this vision that we have in Latin America, and I am open to all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bianca. That was really interesting. We will be back to our speaker from Africa, Dr. Felicia.
So good day to all of you, distinguished leaders in the open science across the globe. I will be making my presentation on knowledge as a public good, the Association of African Universities response. I would mainly be talking about how the AAU is operationalizing, the concept of knowledge as a public good across the African continent. But in the interest of those who may be encountering the Association of African Universities for the first time, I'll quickly run through who we are and what we do. The Association of African Universities, AAU, was established in November 1967. It was established by universities across the continent, mainly to coordinate and improve networking among higher education. But we also work at a continental level to improve on the quality of higher education across various fronts, across teaching, research, community service, and others. Currently, AAU has a membership of over 450 higher education institutions from over 48 countries in Africa. Our vision is to be the lead in terms of advocating for higher education in Africa, with also the capacity to support our member institutions to meet the core needs at a national level, at a continental and global level. Again, our main mission is to enhance the quality and relevance of higher education across the continent. At the AU, we are guided by a set of core values which underpins the various initiatives and activities that we undertake, and this includes teamwork, responsiveness, accountability, equity and inclusiveness, among others. I would believe that our discussion falls around the aspects related to inclusivity. Now to our focus for today, in terms of the Cape Town Declaration on Diamond Open Access, which really looks at key concept about the fact that for knowledge to be a public good, it really must be accessible to all communities, including both readers and authors. In Africa, it's really quite difficult to request an early career researcher to pay, any figure between $100 to $1,500 to be able to publish or to be able to access, to make their publication available out there. And once we are not able to engage in that process, that means that we are actually cutting out a critical mass of scholars who have to engage in the whole knowledge generation agenda. Again, the Declaration on Diamond Open Access is critical in terms of ensuring that participation in knowledge production and communication is really free of prejudice and is also unbiased. It highly calls for social justice, equity, and inclusivity, and these are really fundamental to Diamond Open Access, and therefore, we have been working to champion these key principles and these core underlying factors. We also know that another key aspect which we can all directly improve once we fully adopt the concept of Diamond Open Access relates to language diversity. In the other speakers, in one of the speakers' presentation, I did hear that a key focus or a key consideration as far as publication out there relates to publishing in English. Adopt this community-owned format of Diamond Open Access, the aspect of language diversity becomes very critical, and it's prioritized under Diamond Open Access. But then again, we want to briefly go through some key challenges that we face in this part of the world. And of course, it's not only special to Africa. I believe it's also applicable in other contexts, but it's much more critical in our space. There's also systemic biases, prescriptions from global north frameworks, which are not exactly applicable in an African context. There's also marginalization of African scholarship via the various ways through which even research itself is undertaken. And therefore, the proposed solution is really that of Diamond Open Access, which would make sure that we don't have to pay both authors and readers. Again, we are also proposing alternate publishing models that are non-commercial. And one of which such key platforms which can help us do this is the African Platform for Open Scholarship, which is adopting the tenant model and making it very accessible and very easy for higher education institutions in Africa to be able to publish and to participate more deeply in the global arena in terms of knowledge production. I think some of these things have come up as far as the declaration's focus is concerned, in that it has to be community-owned and led. It has to drive social justice, equity, and inclusivity. The Diamond Open Access model also respects regional and language diversity and serves as a key tool for decolonization and demarginalization. Just to look at the AU's mandate and what we have been doing in this discussion, I would say that we really have been mobilizing a continental ecosystem for Diamond Open Access, given our reach as far as our member universities are concerned, and as far as the countries that we serve. Our role really is to coordinate, to advocate, and to build capacity. And we've therefore been doing this with various institutions and under various initiatives, some of which I'll be highlighting in the next few slides. I end on this slide by saying that we see Diamond Open Access not as a standalone project or initiative, but as an integral part of building a robust African, knowledge ecosystem, for which reason we keep on advocating and encouraging all our stakeholders to get on board. This initiative. So we at the AAU have been promoting intra-Africa collaboration mainly connecting key diamond platforms across the continent to share resources and also to share best practices. We've been engaging key stakeholders in the space, creating the platform for them to speak to each other and generally to refine how we can improve and how we can move together as stakeholders in the space. Again, we've also been working in terms of fostering global partnerships, working with other institutions in Latin America, in Europe, and across other parts of the globe. And making sure that all of this is being done in alignment with key recommendations that have already been established. Again, in terms of our advocacy, I would just like to highlight some key platforms recently where we had engaged the vice chancellors across African universities and where we had engaged other key stakeholders in terms of how we should all prioritize diamond open access, and we should come together around it to make sure we deepen its impact. One of which was at the 16th General Conference recently held in Morocco. And this was a platform where we had over 500 higher education stakeholders from the university community, from the funding community, and generally from the research community being present. And we did make a case in terms of the importance of diamond open access, how we should relook at the role of librarians, and how we should actually make sure that we are developing a stronger force around that. Again, also, I think at the World Science Forum in South Africa back in 2022, we also, made such similar calls. And we've also been undertaking capacity building, as I did mention, as well as continuing to advocate in terms of what should assessments at the university level be based on. Of course, publications is key, but the issue of high impact journals. So we then tend to ask the question, who determines what is impact? Who determines what we do call high impact journals? So, critical questions were asked as we engage with the key stakeholders. I would also like to briefly highlight the Association of African Universities, key platform called the AfRID. And AfRID is, just a second. AfRID is a comprehensive digital platform which profiles information really on over 6 million research publications, and is also promoting key communities of practice focused on other various research areas, including a key focus on diamond open access and a key focus on the open science generally. It's called African Research Innovation and Development Network. I would like to invite all of us to look it up. Earlier, again, the AAU had this very incredible initiative called the DATAD Initiative Database for Thesis and Dissertation, which, was open in that sense, and researchers could actually just go there and be able to access and freely download a thesis and data, thesis and dissertations produced by African universities. I would also like to briefly highlight some other key initiatives we've been undertaking generally across the region on open science. We have been partnering with the Training Center in Communication as well as PLOS to engage in high-level open science meetings. This is generally the open science agenda. And we've undertaken meetings as well as also engaging policymakers and researchers, and really, creating the importance and deepening the need for which we should all move towards diamond open access. And we've done key engagements in North Africa, in West Africa, in South Africa, in East Africa, with engagements currently ongoing in Central Africa as well. So where do we see the future of African knowledge, and what we want to see in all of these key continental initiatives and engagements we've been undertaking? We want to continue to scale, innovate diamond open access infrastructure across the continent. We want to see a continent which, has key innovative infrastructure, which are speaking to each other. We also want to, through these various initiatives, be able to champion equitable research assessment. We want to be sure that we have a strong global alliance as far as Diamond Open Access is concerned. And we are promoting the fact that African scholarship should be by us, for us, and then also for the world. And we have to lead this initiative. As might have been said earlier, I'm just returning from the 4th United Nations Open Science and Open Scholarship Conference, which took place over a 3-day period from 16th to 18th October. And I thought some of the discussions are very key to our engagement here today as well. And it might help to briefly go over, some of the key outputs that came from the communique as issued by the Advisory Committee on Open Science. So as background, the conference was mainly building on earlier discussions and recommendations that were put together at 3 previous conferences. And the discussions focused on key things around AI, open science, and the global digital divide, also around science communication and public engagement, and then how we can remove barriers to knowledge, making sure that open infrastructure is readily available for use by the knowledge production community. The conference stressed that science is a human right, and we had key discussions on science as a public good, which is really falling under our discussion here today. We had also at the end indicated or highlighted that harnessing open science to advance the Pact for the Future was quite critical. We all need to work together as stakeholders to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals implementation. And we need to work to bridge the digital divide, which is, a very key component for us here in Africa. We need to make sure that we are closing the huge gap that exists from people from less privileged communities as well. So that was another key issue which came up during that conference. The issue of strengthening multilateral cooperation was again highlighted. And therefore, it's quite good that at this platform we are having presenters coming from all over the world. I think it falls very much in line with strengthening the multilateral cooperation. We want to ensure that there's intergenerational equity. Similarly, we want to accelerate implementation of key existing commitments, mainly investing and sustaining non-commercial and community-owned open science infrastructures, such as the APOS, which I did speak about a while ago. We also want to promote multilingualism, which Diamond Access offers us the ability to do so much more freely. We are also saying that as we work together, we all need to look at advancing equitable international collaboration in open science. So those are some key things that came from that meeting. But generally, in terms of my presentation, I would like to conclude by saying that Diamond Open Access offers a sustainable, equitable, and African-led pathways, which affirm scholarship as a public good. And therefore, we all need to continue to work together to promote it. We need to work together to ensure that it's fully, adopted, and all the stakeholders that we need to participate in this space are actually on board and are there. I'm also concluding by saying that reclaiming African scholarship is really not optional. It is a strategic imperative. And generally, to make a call to all of you here to partner the Association of African Universities on the various initiatives that we undertake, the AFRID, which I highlighted, DATAD initiatives, centers of excellence generally, as well as also to give you an early invitation to join our next conference for rectors, vice chancellors, and presidents of African universities. So on that note, I would like to end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Felicia, and thank you very much for making the time to join us today, although you just arrived. Thank you to all of our speakers. We have a few questions. We just have a few minutes to go, and we have a few questions, so we will try to keep the answers brief. And one question we had for Dr. Moumita is that China is doing great job in investing into APCs, but is it really an investment or continuously making profit-driven publishers even richer? Diamond Open Access is the future, but it's a concept that makes sense to mostly us professionals advocating for Diamond Open Access academics to tell them to publish in our platforms and neglect the profit reputable journals where they only get subsidy and promotions based on publishing on selective journals, making it difficult. Do you have any tips? How do we relook at research impact? Bibliometrics and almetrics are not about social impact, but about citations and downloads. How do we move away from that? I think that's a very important question that we ask ourselves all the time. But do we have any tips for all of us?
That's the point, that there is no easy solution, that we can again develop the same kind of metrics and we will fall in the same trap that we are right now. So honestly, that's why I wanted to show that China, even India, like even with the subscription, we're just filling the coffer of the commercial publishers. What we, again, this is only can be done through a community effort. As a community, we have to come together and show all the other researchers, specifically the one who is doing the research, let's say in STEM, have more discussion with them to show what is the problem, how much of the money that actually should go in research is going in publishing business, and we are working for free. So I think this is the awareness building we have to keep on doing. And from my experience, I see it's very difficult. They don't really get it because they're so hooked into these systems. It's just that we also need to have a much more also push to talk with the high leadership in the science community, or even political community as well, to push that there is something else that's there. It's good for the country. So again, it's not the easy answer or easy way out.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moumita. And I think the second question is a question to all of us, because this, varies, profoundly between place to place and institution to institution, which is who really owns our knowledge. And I'd like to direct that question to Sharla.
Who owns our knowledge? I think it's back to the people. I mean, who are we doing this for? We aren't doing this for libraries or publishers or careers or all of this. I mean, we all have our individual motivations, but I would like to think that we are so passionate about open and community-led publishing because we want to solve the real-world problems out there. We want to make the world a better place, and we believe that the brilliant minds that are within higher education or independent scholars, those who are so passionate about whatever it is they're passionate about, contribute to that. So that's who I want to own the knowledge. And unfortunately, I don't think that's reality, but it is our North Star.
Thank you very much, Sharla. And our third question is what about Africa, specifically countries coming from post-conflict situations? I think you're asking about what is the situation for DOIM and open access? How could it be for those countries? And I think I would like to ask Dr. Bianca about that. Have you had any experience where you've been working with countries that were post-conflict into establishing, open access or DOIM and open access journals?
Well, the reality here in the region is something Pacific, and we are always fighting against the assessment of the researchers, and I think that we must try to imagine, to create a strategy to first of all to change the way the researchers are assessed, and then if we change, I think that we will start to break this oligopoly scientific commercial. I think that, well, we don't have any problem with our countries. We have very important initiatives that are trying to work together with the countries. One of them is the network named Lyrasis. And as I said, we have the very important actions that are made by Redalic that supports the Diamond Open Access. And well, we have no. The North must change the way they classify, they measure, they do the assessment of the researchers. If they don't do that, because we always copy what the North do. And so we are waiting for this change to change too. We always wait for the North. And so I think that it's something like that. Thank you, Osman.
Thank you very much, Bianca. I'd like to apologize for our panelists that we're just going a little bit over time. So we have a few questions to answer. And if we have to drop off, please feel free to. But my next question, which is going to be like a couple of questions that are going to be to Dr. Felicia. So the first note is about AI and Diamond Open Access. How is that impactful in the African experience and in the African perspective? And the other question is that the AAU works in partnership with the commercial publisher Plus, whose business model is based on APCs. Can you tell us more about the framework and objectives of this corporation?
Okay, thank you. I would also like to maybe briefly respond to some of the earlier questions in terms of who owns Africa's knowledge. And mainly, I just wanted to add to the discussion that we need to recognize that authorship is really different from ownership. And that even though, sometimes, not sometimes actually, publishers, researchers do end up publishing their articles and then are unable to access it because it's been hidden beyond paywall. So in terms of who owns our knowledge, sometimes it's actually the publishers, sometimes it's the researcher, and then, in other situations, it's also the institutions. But we really want to move to a situation where us as the researchers are actually the ones who owns our knowledge. You did ask a question around AI, and I think we can all really agree that AI is really a transformative force. It's really shaping a lot in terms of how we undertake research, in terms of how students even study across the continent and everywhere. And therefore, we really have to leverage it in what we do. We need to make sure that we are leveraging it in a positive way to improve on our work. There was also a question about what we do with PLOS. Currently, what we are doing with PLOS and TCC is really an engagement which enables us to build capacity generally on open science. I think our engagement with them is very specific, and it's, tilted towards what is beneficial for our members, what is beneficial for our institutions. And we mainly, lead the process as AAU. We lead the process jointly with TCC in terms of how we are building capacity generally on open science, in terms of making sure that we are getting into the rooms where we can deepen our advocacy and try and get key partners, try and get key decision makers in the room to generally get into and adopt the concept of open science. So it's very specific. I would like to mention that is quite specific in terms of what we do, because we are also very much aware of the fact that, there are other interests in there. Thank you.
Our last couple of questions will go to Dr. Graham. So the first one, I'll be redirecting the conflict question. And the second question is, in your region, how can Diamond Open Access be protected from being taken over by commercial publishers? And who determines what is impactful and what is not?
Thank you. I'll answer the conflict one's almost an easier question. I wanted to come in on the conflict one because obviously I cannot speak for African countries in conflict zones, but what I can say is when the war in Ukraine started, there was a move by it was the operas community, but backed actually globally, to protect the Ukrainian journals from potentially being completely deleted, and also to support editorial staff and to make everything open access, and that was funded with a community fund. So there's certainly something I think to bear in mind. And of course, open access is some form of protection, because it means that the content is not necessarily just in a particular country, but also the preservation is very important as well. So that's I guess what I would say for that. And like I say, we've got an example from Ukraine when that was what we tried to do. The other one, oh goodness me, how can we? Well, I'm going to be controversial before we finish. I think we have an issue because we believe for Diamond OA that the ownership is very firmly with the academics. And that means academic freedom. And it means that academics are potentially free to move. Now, what we hope is they go in the opposite direction and they come from commercial publishers, and there are various, and Sharla's one of the people behind this in North America, but there are various things underway to sort of try and diamondize editorial boards. We can certainly do it for infrastructure. So POSI principles for open infrastructure mean that if an infrastructure, so OAPEN, if it ceased to exist, it cannot change. It cannot go to anyone else but a not-for-profit. You could do that from the publisher point of view, and Sharla's mentioned Martin Eve previously, but his work around setting up and the Open Book Collective is the same. They dissolve basically if they cannot go into commercial hands. The academics, we have to have just a very, very powerful and persuasive argument, which I think we're building to stop that. But we've got to work very, very hard. And as a library publisher a few years ago, we launched a journal, and the first thing that happened was a commercial publisher contacted me, not knowing I was running the press, offering me money for the journal we just launched. That didn't move, but we have to work together as a community, I think. But it's a very difficult question to answer. So thank you.
Thank you for starting and ending with you, Dr. Graham. So thank you very much, guys, for joining us today. It was really interesting to hear from all of your different perspectives. We were planning to go for closing statements, but we went ahead of time already. So thank you very much to our amazing panelists. Thank you, everyone, for joining, for interacting, and for your questions. And we really hope to see you in day 2. So there was one question about how to join the African platform for open scholarship. If you are keen to know more about that, join us for day 2.